DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mike Schaefer from Husker247. What's up, Schaefer?
Not a ton. How are you guys doing?
Mike J., how was your Father's Day?
Oh, good.
All right, Mike J., we were talking earlier about, with guys like Vlad and Stone and what Nebraska's doing. We talked a ton. You're going to be surprised in June. We talked a ton of recruiting, like kind of in depth. And it's been more philosophical than the tangible. And this was on the heels of, where Nebraska ranks in terms of the Big Ten and, high school classes versus, where they're at with the youth of their roster and all sorts of things. But you get a guy like Stone to surprise Nebraska to some degree and visit this weekend as opposed to going to Georgia where most people thought he was going to wind up. Is it too much credit to talk about Nebraska's what they do behind the scenes in terms of their homework and the nuances of what they know about whether it's people or cultures or whatever? Like they're always constantly trying to find these edges. And it appears to be working, at least to some degree, to garner interest with top flight recruits. We know it's not money.
Right. I think one of the things that they've done extraordinarily well in this cycle is identify talent before other people have. I mean,
that's what we talked about.
They had offered that particular defensive lineman before he was even at the Army All-American.
Yep.
Or the All-American. It's not the Army one anymore. They offered him in December. And they have a connection with Brandon Collier, the guy who's, for the lack of a better term, the handler for Stone. But, so they identified him early, and they had that relationship early. They identified T.J. Brano before literally anyone else.
Obit in Idaho.
Yep. I mean, they have done a really nice job identifying these people. And in particular, they've done a nice job with defensive backs because if they're able to get, guys like Jackson and Danny Odom to come in this weekend, Nebraska was on them pretty early. Now, Jackson was committed to Florida, so he was more of a known thing. But Danny Odom, when Nebraska offered him, it was like Nebraska, Pittsburgh, he's originally from Pennsylvania, and a couple other schools. And Nebraska was in there very early. Now you go look at Danny Odom. He was just at Ohio State this past weekend. He's going to Penn State. He was at Auburn earlier. He went
same thing with Carpenter.
Oklahoma.
Right?
So they're.
Remember Coach Rhule's little deal about he's like, you guys think we find diamonds in the rough. We offer a guy, and it's no big deal. He's talking about Noah. He says then he said the kid camps at Ohio State, and all of a sudden they know what they're doing. It's like we trust our talent evaluating process.
Yeah, the problem, at least in this cycle, is they have to prove that they can get them too. And I think you mentioned earlier talking about where they rank in Big Ten recruiting or just recruiting ranking. I know this is sort of sacrilegious as a recruiting guy. I would encourage people to not think about the rankings in this class because it's not a traditional class. I mean, they're going to take 12 to 15 high school guys. They're going to turn around, and their portal class is largely going to be based on how the team plays. If they go and they play well and they have a bunch of these young guys that are playing well, then they're not going to just take a bunch of immediate one-year portal players.
Yep.
They're going to be a little bit judicious about what they bring in, and they're going to look for some guys that maybe were overlooked or didn't have opportunities on their program that have multiple years that they could come in, develop, and help. Or if they have a rough year this year, like let's say they go 7-5 or 6-6, and it's imperative that they win a bunch of games in 2026, they've allowed themselves the flexibility that they would have space to be able to get a fair amount of one-year plug-and-play type players. They haven't overspent on the high school portion of their, NIL with their recruiting class. Like they have given themselves a ton of flexibility to operate based on how the season goes, while also stacking the deck in their favor that if they have a good year this year, the 2027 class looks like it could be really good. So for like the 50th time in the last, I don't know how many of her appearances, if Nebraska wins football games, they have set themselves up for long-term success in a really nice way. The big thing is they have to go prove that they're capable of winning football. Like they have done, I think, a really nice job of sort of having their cake and eating it too. They have to finish off this class. It's not going to look remarkable. I do think they're going to be devoid of star power ultimately at the top of the class unless they win a bunch of games and flip people late. But I think they just allowed themselves to be fluid and move in whatever direction they need to when it gets to December. If they have to go get a bunch of guys out of the portal, they'll have the money and the ability and the space to do it. If they don't have to, then they're going to be able to operate great for 2027. They're probably flipping some 2026s and still going to work out fine. I think that there is a deeper level to Nebraska's recruiting class this year. What meets the eye when you look at where they're ranked at the moment.
Yeah, color me intrigued because Caleb will not give me any lunch money. If they don't keep Brunna and get Darion Jones, because this dude is hosting guys all the time. He's got to get at least – he got to start to come through so I can at least eat over the next handful of days, Schaefer. So color me curious. I got permission.
Lock him out of the house. Change the garage code on him.
Schaefer, that's me. They do that too.
Whatever you got to do.
So here's the deal though. Like on all honesty, and I got permission from his dad. I asked. But I was walking into 7-on-7 yesterday, and I saw Darion's dad, and he's walking, and I'm like, D, what's up? And he says, the first thing he said, it's just he and I, right? And he said, man, let me tell you how smart Coach Rhule is. And I set this up to Ravi. I'm like, hey, Iowa guy, he's had to learn to love Nebraska. And my immediate reply was, oh, God, I think the exact same way. Say less, like do tell.
Mm-hmm.
So he proceeds to kind of tell this story again. Shape the Iowa guy. I mean, Iowa rock, Iowa golf shoes, Iowa flags. Like this is Darion's dad. And he goes, so I get there for the OV and they're getting ready to go to dinner. And he said, Coach Rhule said, hey, how'd you like to eat with the governor? And he's, D-Rock said, I kind of looked at him and he's like, no, nothing political. No parties, no nothing. Just have dinner. So, D-Rock was like, yeah, okay, I have no problem. He said two seconds into it, Pillen's explaining, that he's a Nebraska alum and what a joy it was to play with his brother at the University of Nebraska. Is that not incredible? And I'm like, I try. It's great. It's great. It's great, right? And he's pretty smart. He's bright, right? He's done this recruiting thing, and he's like, I just was like, oh man. And I said, that is the greatest, least surprising thing that I have heard. It's just, and I know it's working with Sohn and just their ability to leave no stone unturned when they do this thing is incredible.
I think they put a lot into the psychology of each individual recruit.
That's it. That's a great way to put it.
And it's not like they're the first staff to attempt to do something like that, but I think they do a better job than most of determining what the value factors are and then how they can sort of shift what it is they think a kid would want. If they think someone's going to be more blown away by the facilities, they're going to get them extra time in the facilities. If they think that they want more time with a position coach, or if they're more intrigued by the NFL aspect, they're going to find a way to get them in front of guys who have spent time in the NFL or coached in the NFL or whatever it is. If they think that they're a total workout guy, then they're going to put them with Corey Campbell, and Corey Campbell's going to spend a bunch of time with them. If they think they're sort of, they're the body of the temple person, they're going to spend a lot of time with the nutritionist. Like I very much doubt any of my colleagues that work at other places at 24/7 Sports or give you the whole industry, On Free, Rivals, whatever. I bet the Nebraska people covering this write more about the team's nutritionist on a recruiting visit than anywhere else in the country. And people love her.
Yeah.
They love her. Like I have never met her. I should probably do a story about her at some point in time. But just the quotes are so glowing, and it's about a nutritionist.
Listen, she's the boss. She is the boss.
I just think they do a really smart job of figuring out what it is that people want, and it doesn't always work, right? Like it's not like they're batting 1,000%, but they're. We spent this talking about baseball, and they do a really nice job of trying to win in the margins. Like Nebraska, we can talk about what they might have for money and all these other things that they can offer, but they are also smart about trying to find just the littlest inch that might give them an advantage. And I think Darion Jones is going to be a really, really tough recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
But if hearing the governor talk about the idea of playing with his brother, which is literally Nebraska's biggest and, quite frankly, only truly meaningful pitch. I mean, I think playing at home would be great. All of that would be great. But it's the idea of playing with God, right? Like whenever I talk to Darion, that's where the conversation always ends up going. It was a big thing for him this weekend, just hanging out with his brother's friends, feeling like he fit in with that group of Nebraska players.
Yeah.
Like that was a big, big deal. And I remember being 17 years old and joining my brother for his fraternity and hanging out with those guys and thinking if I went to Nebraska, I would probably join this fraternity too. So I think it's a smart play. It's the obvious one, but to get Jim Pillen involved and sort of play off of the Pillen brothers is pretty remarkable.
And
I did not see that coming when you started this.
When he said it, I just started laughing. He's telling the story, and I'm like,
that's all you can do.
I'm like, this guy he doesn't. And there's always these little stories like that. They're just so.
And I think it's important that people know that I doubt Matt Rhule went to the governor and was like, hey, I want you to bring this up. I guarantee it was more of when they were in a conversation, he sort of worked that in there, so it was front of mind.
Yeah.
So that's what Jim Pillen was talking about when they had this conversation. Like it's sort of pulling strings, and people don't even realize that they're being puppeteered.
So you're saying Matt Rhule was incepting the governor? Is that what's happening?
It's just.
I think there's an element to that, yeah.
It's just weird.
I don't want the governor's people calling me later today and telling me that that's how it happened. So, it's just a theory.
And it's just weird too, and I always have to be careful because I don't want to offend my coaches, and I try to be respectful. But I mean, I have known Darion since forever, and I give him a hug, and this is probably 30 minutes before he catches 2 touchdowns on us, and I'm not exaggerating. But we're kind of just shooting the breeze, and we're talking, and it's little things where he's like, man, Caleb's kind of getting into golf, and he took Donnie to Top Golf, and he goes, have you seen his roommate's golf clubs? And they live with this another player, Danny King, who is fantastic, and he's got a great set of clubs, and it doesn't have anything to do with they have Carolina blue, head covers, but it's his high school's it's their colors.
Sure.
I'm serious.
Obviously,
that's what it is. And he's like, man, you know how much my dad likes to golf? He thinks he's gonna always be able to beat me, and I'm just like, ooh, is that a chicken nugget? Like, do you want to learn how to golf? So these guys like to golf. So, I'm just, this is all these things going on in my head that I'm not saying anything, but it's just funny how the psychology of knowing who you're dealing with plays a lot bigger role than some of these guys that are always talking about, oh, it boils down to money or NIL. There's still some good old fashioned get to know somebody relationship recruiting too that I think is pretty good.
Adding into all of that, where was Darion Jones when he picked up his offer from Nebraska in April? On the golf course with his dad in Arizona.
It's all coming together. All tying together.
Mike J.
Schaefer, real quick before you let you go here, I was doing some quick math while we were talking to you, and because we were talking about class size and 12 to 15 this one, and we're not really sure what the transfer portal class will look like. If they have a good year, it's probably a small portal class as well. To that point, if I can add correctly, which is definitely up for debate, I believe there are 95 freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores on the roster.
That's pretty close.
Yep.
That's pretty close.
Which means it could be like this for a couple years if they're good, right? Like if they have a good year this year, like we might be having the same conversation next year where it's like, probably going to be a pretty small high school class. And if the season goes well, probably not looking at adding a ton in the transfer portal, going to be pretty targeted. Like, I'm just saying that, and I don't know how you feel about if that's how it's going to play out or how long it plays out this way. But with 95 guys and the roster limit coming as it's getting grandfathered in, you're probably looking at a situation where you go, hey, we may need to recalibrate sort of what we look at in terms of recruiting and how they operate.
Yeah, and all of that's going to be dependent on of those 95 young guys. Like, what are you getting from them? Are these guys that are, clear write it in Sharpie on the 2 deep? Are they players that you still need to see a little bit more from? Are they people that you thought had potential or it was going to go one way and then clearly didn't? Are they guys that fit your program? Like there's going to be enough player movement of that 95 where it would shake things loose for future classes. But at the same time, if what they went and got in 23 and 24 and 25, if those guys develop and a lot of them have stuck around, then you're in the sort of unique spot where the bigger thing is how do you keep the guys on your roster because you think they can help you too. Because what you don't want is for the guy who's running third at a position to be like, well, I don't know if there's a path here for me. I better jump in the portal and go find something else. But that can be a sign of a healthy program. I think people look at the portal and people leaving and think it only means bad things. Sometimes it could just mean, hey, it's really tight at the top. Like they got to go find opportunity elsewhere. And so, and that's why it's a big year ahead. Like you got to see what you have on this roster. We spent so much time with a lot of these veterans that have seemingly been at Nebraska forever that are no longer here, that now we get to see some of these younger players and what they're going to be able to bring. And I'm thinking specifically both sides of the line, offensive line, defensive line. You've had so many of these veterans. Now we're going to see where they're at with some of the young guys they went and got in these last couple cycles. And then linebacker. I mean, those are 3 positions right off the top of my head. Obviously defensive back where they have like 42 people of that 95. But, we'll see there. I think that'll shake out on its own. But linebacker and the 2 lines, I think we're going to learn a lot about what they have in terms of young depth early in their career, even this season alone.
That's our guy, Mike J. Schaefer, Husker247. Schaefer, appreciate the time and kind of the leeway you always give us to talk about whatever we want. Good talking to you. Good talking to you as always. We'll get you next week.
That was an incredible 35-minute conversation that I just realized is 35
Yeah,
minutes.
it just blew by, man. I'd check the clock.
That's how you know you're having fun, right?
And considering Shane hasn't logged us indoors. I get it. You're getting ready to say, go ahead, get your walk. Oh, that's one way to look at it. Go ahead, Schaefer. I know you're going to find a way to pee in my cereal.
Oh, you're good. I'm in a great mood today. I'm going down to the CWS later today. It's supposed to rain, of course, for the game that I'm going to, but we'll see what Coastal Carolina looks like tonight. They kind of look like a tour de force a little bit.
Yeah, just remember to say chance.
Yeah, he'll get mad at you. Don't say chance. Chance.
Say it. He said, say it with me. I was like, wow. All is wild.
Schaefer, just make sure you pray to the Omaha Dome that you stay dry out there. You get a baseball game in, all right?
Yeah, well, whatever happens. I'll be in Eeyore either way. It'll either be too sunny for me or I'll be too wet. So.
Make a sacrifice to the Omaha Dome gods, Schaefer. We'll get it done.
Okay.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you later.